Hi, welcome back. It's another Tuesday. Ken Walker with you here. This week I'm going to speak about another salamander. It's kind of the cousin of the redback, and it's called a blue-spotted salamander. And over the last 3 weeks, when I looked at stinging nettle and the cypress spurge and the redback, each had its own characteristic that made it stand out. The plants, a little different from the animals, but I have found this out a lot of times that when you look at a species, what appears first to you is not always really what it's all about. And when you get into botany or zoology or biology of any sort, it's always good to first look at something, understand it, and then try to find out as much as you can about it. Because, as they say, the devil's in the details, but here it's amazement is in the details. And the more you look at something, I've done that on microscopes here in my room, and you look at something, as we all see it with two eyes, it's one thing. You get down to a microscopic level, and you sit there and you go, seriously? That's what's happening? So here's this blue-spotted salamander. Now, like the redback, it's a salamander, it's an amphibian, it has 2 lives. And actually, this one has 2 lives. It comes from an egg in the water, like all amphibians. It turns into a tadpole, like all amphibians. And then it comes out on land, like all amphibians. So in that sense, it's like all amphibians. It's cold-blooded, like all amphibians. And almost like the cypress spurge, and I'm finding this out with a lot of stuff out there, the tail secretes a noxious, means negative, milky liquid. So you really don't want to pick this one up. But I always wonder, like the spurge or the milkweed, or this tail, one, how do they go about developing this? I mean, that's amazing that these things that have either no brains or very small nervous systems develop these defense mechanisms, or, I'm certain that noxious milky liquid doesn't taste good, so it's not there for flavoring. But the thing is, this transformation that they have occurs in July and August, as does most amphibians, because they have to get their cycle done, reproduce, and then go back into winter hibernation real quick. They do not do well in cold environments. I mean, an amphibian, even a reptile, being cold-blooded, do well more in the tropics than up here. So when you find them up here in colder weather, they're at the limits of their species. I mean, and they're struggling to survive. And as habitat changes, climate changes, they may thrive more. We don't know. May move north. We don't know. Most of it, like the redback or any other salamander, it tends to come out at night in wet conditions. It's just that way. It doesn't have the skin to deal with hot and dry. It would kill it. The real reason I'm doing this one, and doing it last, because this is the strangest thing I've ever encountered. I'm sure there's other versions of this, but this is the one I have found. It's called Gyno Genesis. Now, put those 2 words together, and it's the beginning of life. The weird thing is, there are males and females, and come late in the summer, they have to get together to reproduce. What happens is the male gives his sperm to the female. Sounds pretty normal to now. The sperm punctures the ovum. Still pretty normal. But after that point, all the genetic material of the male is discarded. It's not used in the fertilization of the egg. All the genetic material comes from the female. And that's pretty strange. You know, I mean, it's not quite virgin birth, but getting pretty close. And what happens is that the genetic material normally of the male enters into the ovum and it forms the nucleus. And then the genetic material of the female is in the nucleus. And then, of course, you get the zygote and embryo and keep going. So the whole idea is only the female allows its own genetic material to become the next generation. I have not been able to find anywhere how a male shows up. If the genetic material is female, then all of the next generation of that blue spotted salamander is female. Somewhere along the line, you get a male. You also realize how redundant males can be, but most females know that. If anybody has any information on that, I'd love to hear about it. But, you know, we look at these things, well, sometimes we can't even see them. But we look at these things, and once you start realizing the wonder of nature, it's very easy to become a naturalist because you're faced with things that are out of the ordinary, things you may never even know existed. And you're left with a lot of questions. And that's what keeps you out there, looking for the answers. This particular salamander is a representative of the oldest lineage of unisexual, that's like Gyno Genesis, vertebrates alive. It goes back something like 3 to 5 million years of doing it this way. In one sense, and this is the only thing I can think about, the way most animals do it, including us, it takes a lot of energy. This one doesn't. It preserves more energy and yet gets the job done. I mean, they've been around, you know, longer than we have. So the whole idea is, once again, knowing something about what runs around under your feet or flies over your head or lands on your shoulder, come out to the island, go out, take a walk in nature, anywhere, and use your senses. Really look, really listen, even really smell. Do not touch, don't taste. See you next week.